preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
loose, he has terrorized this town. Tonight, it ends.
We need to stop this mother.
We need a plan of attack.
We have to get these people out of town.
How can he still be alive?
This is Officer Williams. Our night isn't over yet.
Going on, everybody? Welcome to this all-star horror sequel edition of the DADS, Not Always on Wrestling. And man, I have been looking forward to this show since it was first pitched, even though it was a little harder than I thought it would be to kind of come up with the list here.
Yes.
Like, I literally finished my list last night.
Oh, jeez, wow.
So that just goes to show how difficult it was, but subjectivity is key, as we always like to say. I mean,
exactly.
It's a matter of what everybody likes. Are you more into the cerebral horror? Are you into blood and guts? Are you more into suspense thrillers? You know,
it's all here.
What is your bag, baby? Yeah,
it's all here for you, kids.
So I'm sure this is not spoiling anything. I'm sure we're going to be talking about Freddy, Jason, Chucky, Michael. You know, maybe a few Universal monsters, maybe a few that I'm not thinking of.
You literally hit my entire list.
But I mean, Pinhead, Leprechaun,
yes,
Leatherface, Damien, Carrie, Pennywise.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, they're all
there.
There's a lot to really dive into, and being as how this is a non-wrestling show, I turn it over to you, Meacham.
Yes, sir.
To kick things off for us.
Much
Start strong. Get that good old-fashioned lead-off double, so that when I come in, I could just knock this back in home.
So we will preface this with a little caveat, a few pro clues, if you will. My list is very very not I don't know, narrow, because I happen to like the movies I like, but I also haven't seen a wide variety of horror movies. I'm still not the horror guy to this day. I probably never will be, which is why I prefer, going to Mickey's Not So Scary Party as opposed to Halloween Horror Nights or Not Scary Farm. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because when I first told my girlfriend that we were going to go on, the day before Halloween to the park,
Right.
she doesn't do like the mazes and everything. She doesn't do the scary farms.
Right.
So when she heard about that, she's like, you know me in haunted houses. This is not going to be good. I'm like, sweetheart, number one, it's Disney.
We're good.
Okay. Number one. It's like, I've been to their events before. It's trick or treating. They bring the characters out. It's not jump scares like Scary Farm, Fright Fest, Halloween Horror Nights, etc.
No.
So then the other part of the thing you got to realize is that's a separate ticket. We won't be able to get into that because we don't have a ticket for that. They usually start clearing the parks out, I want to say around 5-ish. So that comes 6 o'clock, only the people in the park are the ones that paid for that event. And so we don't have to worry about that anyways.
Right. And if I remember the algorithm I used when I made that reservation, I'm pretty sure we are going to be at the park where the party's hosted first anyway. So by the time they clear that place out, we'll be over at the original House of Mouse as it is. So we good. And by the way, that the Oogie Boogie's party sold out, I think, in like September. Like they were not messing around.
Like as soon as tickets dropped for that stuff, it was gone.
And that is why, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, Disney is what they are, and everybody else is fault. Even Halloween Horror Nights bringing back a guy who was the original movie in a lot of the movies I'm sure we're talking about today. The original 1978 Michael Myers is one of the mazes this year. I don't think they've sold all dates yet. So, it's Disney is what they are. And I'm going to stop smooching the corporate booty now and get on my list. Total line, kids. Anyway, my number, and again, a lot of these are going to be very subjective. This is probably going to be one of those shows that subjective should just be running across the board the entire show because, man, opinion, not fact, y'all, for real. But my first one is one that even back then could be argued, probably didn't need to be a thing. And when you come to the other two, 3 kind of was what it was. 4 I only like because a friend of mine is in the movie as the mother character. But Psycho 2.
Okay.
There you go, subjective. There you go. Thank you, sir. I'll actually go ahead and make that a ticker just so we can have it going because that actually is a good idea. Boop, 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 boop. All right. Blend. Okay. Psycho 2, again, how do you possibly follow up something that had become, even at that point, an iconic staple of suspense, of horror? Everything that came after it was compared to it. Everything that any director did could not touch Hitchcock, could not touch that amazing shower scene, could not touch the muscle memories that that movie and that scene evoked. But they went ahead with it anyway, with Psycho 2. 23 years, I think it's actually. So it's set 22 years after the... So yeah, it's in 61, that's true. 22 years, Norman's released, he's gotten rid of the delusions, he's accepted the reality that his mother is dead, and they release him, much to the protests of Marion Crane, of course, the legendary Janet Leigh sister, and it just kind of goes off from there. The killings resume, the Bates Motel reopens, which is what the hell, and it just goes off from there. And people that went to see this movie had so varying expectations, because part of them was like, man, how are they going to possibly touch what we did in 1961, a lot of people are like, I'm going to go see it just so I can shit on it when it's over with. And to their surprise, it was not the original movie at all, by any means. I'm not even going to try to lie.
No.
But it was damn good. So good that when 3 came out, people were like, what happened?
Yeah,
3
see,
was...
I still haven't seen any of the Psycho sequels.
Right.
But for me, I kind of look at Psycho 2 through 4 like a Disney sequel. It's like, it took how many years for you to do a sequel to this?
Yeah.
Was it really necessary?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
I do still want to see it.
Yes.
Because I want to see the rest of the story.
Of course, you're a completionist like I am. So,
but it's one of those things that I was always just kind of like, why? You know.
Yeah. The sequels were what they were, probably weren't necessary. The 1998 shot-for-shot remake was definitely unnecessary.
Absolutely.
I'm not even going to try. Good Lord. Just terrible. But, again, you know, it's a horror sequels episode, and I think that given the unnecessary use for this, it still came off very good. It's one of my favorites. Obviously, it's on my list.
That's fair. I mean, again, subjective.
That's it. It's gonna be running all show, kids. So number 9 for me is one of 2 from a franchise that was actually the first horror franchise I ever saw, on video or any other thing. And I didn't see this one till much, much later. Matter of fact, the first one I saw of the franchise was the last of the original timeline, if you will. But this one has been universally acclaimed. It's probably the best rated one that I recall seeing of the sequels. Some of them were what they were, and the character definitely devolved into a ha-ha as the franchise went on, no doubt about it. But I still say Nightmare on Elm Street.
I was going to say, if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, then absolutely.
Yeah. Dream Warriors, you know, again, you reviewed it early on in the month because it was the 3rd movie. But I thought it was so much better and such a different feel of a follow-up than Freddy's Revenge. Freddy's Revenge was just, I mean, it's a horror movie. They're going to be bizarre no matter what, right? But Freddy's Revenge just came off like ungodly weird. It was just out there. And when you figure that this one brings Heather back as Nancy, you've got Patricia Arquette in one of her earliest damn roles as Kristen. Lawrence Fishburne, who's credited as Larry, by the way.
Yeah.
Pretty sure this is either pre or during the Cowboy Curtis years. I'm trying to get the year on this one, so bear with me here. Yeah, this is during the Pee-wee's Playhouse run. So Lawrence Fishburne as Larry Fishburne, credited as Larry Fishburne, is not only doing Cowboy Curtis, but he's involved with a Freddy Krueger movie. Talk about a different day at the office. Jesus. Right? I mean, granted, they're both campy at this point. They're both out there on a freaking on a vine somewhere in the recesses of the crazy mind. But man, Larry was all over the place with his diversity in film roles. But yeah, this one is so well done. Kristen, the role of Kristen, you know, just was a game changer in the franchise. She very much became the focal point, the focal protagonist, once they phased Nancy out to a certain extent.
Yes.
Kristen very much became, at least 3 through 5, definitely became the point person on the Freddy Krueger franchise. And it was a very proper choice, because I think after Freddy's Revenge, people were like, I don't know about this shit. And Dream Warriors, Dream Master, Dream Child were all very well done. I think Dream Warriors is definitely the best of the 3.
Agreed.
So, I mean, like I said, you reviewed this back on the 3rd, and it's one of those sequels that after having to follow up arguably, part 2 saved the franchise.
Oh, without question. 100%. It jump started. And I'll get more into it. Spoiler alert, it will pop up on my list, but yeah, I will definitely get more into it as we get there, but yeah.
So number 8 is where it is for 2 reasons. Number 1, because I actually enjoy it a lot, considering I've only seen it in the last decade or so of my life, and I'm almost 40. But also because I know my co-host can wax proxy on it better than I can, and can definitely fill in the gaps that I have. Number 8 is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Okay.
I was so relieved, first of all, at how good this one was. Because a lot of the sequels in the Universal Monsters universe kind of just are what they are. But I think this one is one of the rare ones that actually hit everything it needed to hit. It had a good... There was a good reason they were together. Not just, let's throw them together and see what shit sticks to the wall. It was a good story at its core, and the performers all came off so well. You figure your boy Chaney's back as Larry Talbot. They've got not Boris Karloff as the monster, which could have been a disaster. And I think that, forgive me, let me just, my brain just, when Bela Lugosi is the monster, which, you think of him, you think of Dracula first and foremost, especially, the later generations, they see him more as Dracula than anybody else because that's always been force-fed, right? But he portrayed a very definitive version of the monster in his own right. He did a very nice job with this, and I thought that the story just gelled together so well, and I was happy because, like I said, after seeing Wolfie and Frankenstein and both with you for the first time the whole way through, each of them, including the kiddos' first time seeing Frankenstein the whole way through, it was refreshing that they brought the two together, and it still gelled very well.
Yeah,
so I was happy with it.
Absolutely. I mean, again, this will be touched on when it gets to my end of things.
Right.
It's not its own entity. I kind of took a little cheap way out.
Aha!
But it'll all make sense once we get there.
Makes sense to me. Number 7, I went back and forth. I really did, because this is a 5-part movie series at number 7, and I went with number 2. 3 was okay, but I thought the resolution of the story was like, we're doing too much retro booking bullshit. I don't like it. 4 was awful. I hated the 4th movie. I still do to this day. I think it's stupid. And 5, I only recently saw because it's a recent thing, so I didn't want to assume that it would be on a proper sequel list compared to Scream 2. As great as Scream 2 was, as much as it holds up to this day, I still really enjoy Scream 2. I might even enjoy it a little more than the original. And I know that's a hot take. I know I'm going to probably get some mail for that, or some tweets at the very least, but I like the way the second one played out for a lot of reasons. The main thing is the dialogue about how you act when you're in a horror sequel compared to, how it's, again, they're very much a self-parody of themselves. They all are, right? They're parodying, horror movies. They're parodying everything about it, but they're still not going into scary movie land where they're too ha-ha about it, because people are still getting sliced and diced and burnt to a crisp here. And I just thought that the inclusion of Jerry, and whether we like her or not right now at the moment or not, Jada's role, and just everybody in this was so I think even more on point than the first one. And that's just how I felt. And I thought Laurie Metcalf being the ultimate red herring, I thought was a great climax. Spoiler alert, get over your damn selves. It's been almost 30 years.
Yeah, seriously.
But it was great. I loved it. So numbers 6 and 5 for me can really be either or on my list. Because I love them both a lot. I tend to like where I end up putting number 6 more often than not, but I still really enjoy both of them. So I'm not going to cop out and say 5A, 5B and pull a step away where you still can't put number 6 if there's 5A and 5B, but that's basically what it is.
Fair.
So first one for me is Child's Play 2, and the other one is Bride of Chucky.
Okay.
Now, Child's Play 2, I've come to enjoy more and more as I've gotten on in years. A lot of it has to do with interactions with the stars. I'm not going to lie. It's very, very personal visit bias because Alex has been so good to us.
I mean, we got a cameo from him.
Yeah.
In the early days of the Dad's reboot. So.
Yep. And Christine has definitely been a cool recent acquaintance that I've made, and I really wish we could have gone to Son of Monster Palooza and seen them. I know we were going to try to go, and then Fiona canceled. I was kind of like, you know what, the work thing it's not going to work. So hopefully we can see them both soon. But yeah, Child's Play again. If we were doing favorite movies, period horror, Child's Play is always on both our lists. It's so
absolutely.
It is so damn good. But Child's Play 2 had oh shit, we got to follow that. And they still did a very good job. It was very well produced, very well made. I like a lot of the kills in 2 more than 1. God, the freaking kill of the foster dad is just... I still have to turn my head and kind of muffle my ears when he breaks his neck. Like, oh, god damn. It's very much akin of when Batman breaks Sal Maroni's legs in Dark Knight, because it's just the sound is just not acceptable.
No.
It's not okay. And Chucky is just so more deranged, more driven, more freaking out because he's going to lose his opportunity to get loose.
Yeah.
And he does, which is just sends him into overdrive in the climax in the factory. That is such a great story. And then 3 kind of is what it is. You and I both talked about 3. We enjoy it for what it is, but it's like, oof, it's rough.
Yeah.
And the fact that they time jumped, it's like, man, what's funny, they time jumped into 3 and then they kept it in the same setting when they caught up to it timeline-wise in 98 with Bride of Chucky. So it's like, why would we bother time jumping? We're just going to make a movie the same year.
Yeah, exactly.
Stupid. But for all that they had to the mess they had to try to sweep up, Bride of Chucky did a damn good job, I'll tell you what. The way they put Chucky back together, and the way they still kept that continuity of his face having to be stitched and covering it later and curse and cults and all the things they did with it. It was a great way to go, okay, we acknowledge 3 sucked, our bad.
Yeah.
So, Bride of Chucky was a great makeup. Seed of Chucky was them, we don't have to care anymore. And, no, stop!
You undid the thing!
You undid the thing, you said! But, man, I still say that people talk about Katherine Heigl and the ascent she made and how fast she became a star. It's like, people don't give her part in Bride of Chucky, I think, near enough love for my money. I thought her, and I forget the actor that played Jesse, so forgive me, his name, forgive me. I thought they were both very underrated in that movie because they weren't the key ingredient. It was very much Jennifer Tilly.
Absolutely.
And hell, Jennifer Tilly, who had, I'm not going to say she toiled along doing nothing, but she was very much like, okay, she's in this. She's funny. She's got that appeal. Tiffany has had her endure for what, almost 25 years?
Forever.
Yeah, forever. 25 years later, Tiffany is as much an integral part of the franchise, I dare say, as everybody but Chucky.
Yeah.
Because without Tiffany, we don't have the last 4 movies, or as a major supporting player, and definitely not the series.
Yeah.
So cannot wait to get reactions from everybody once we get Chucky getting watched, because as we're taping this, I haven't seen the episodes yet. So looking forward to it. But yeah, Bride of Chucky, again, even though Seed tried its best to derail it again, Bride of Chucky saved it from Child's Play 3 Purgatory Hell. Much like Dream Warriors did with After Freddy's Revenge. So a lot of these sequels are very much like, okay, these follow-ups have been but good stuff to come. As is this one, number 4 for me officially. It is we talked off air. We talked at the end of last show about Season of the Witch not really being a sequel because it doesn't follow the Myers continuity, even though you said it does say Halloween 3, so it technically is. This one is a sequel, but it's not in the timeline continuity of the first movies.
Okay.
It takes place in the real world. It's very much akin to Once Upon a Time versus the Disney stories.
The Disney stories.
The stories. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now,
yes,
having my first exposure to Freddy be Freddy's Dead in 1991, even though I saw it in 93 on VHS, the same day I watched Child's Play 3 for the first time I saw Chucky, and WrestleMania 9 on pay-per-view the day before. Can we talk about a traumatizing day for 9-year-old Jeff? Yeah, or 10-year-old Jeff. Yeah, thank you for that. Therapy was...
Couldn't have been that traumatizing. Hulk Hogan was the champion again.
I saw Bobby Heenan's underwear on camera after he was on a camel backwards. Shut the hell up. No.
The Undertaker came out with a vulture, and arguably the greatest entrance of that shit-tastic pay-per-view.
Yes.
And Hulk Hogan was the champion again for you.
There were a few
High Inside 2020 was the bad call, but for young Jeff Meacham, the Hulkamaniac brother, his champion was back with the gold, dude.
That's right. And, even 10-year-old Jeff was like, man, them babes with the narcissist is looking good up in Vegas with the mirrors. There you go. That thong, I thought, even the Macho Man was digging the ladies. Yeah. And, of course, our buddy Stagger Lee was at that show live. God bless him and his dad for having to do that shit in person.
Hey, Stagger Lee was at 9. I was at 21. High Inside, neither one of them were the greatest, but they had high spots.
I was at 2000. High spots was the only thing that was good about that show.
But we digress.
Yes, buy this shirt. Watch those shows on the network if you dare. But yeah, New Nightmare, after having only seen Freddy's Dead, I did not see New Nightmare until later as well. I actually gone back and watched the movies, but man, they took a chance with New Nightmare. They really did, because Freddy's Dead kind of ended it definitively, yes, because Freddy was most certainly dead. But it was like, he died because they stuck a stick of dynamite in his torso and he blew up. Like, that's how they killed Freddy? What a bitch way to go. Like,
I agree with that. I mean, Freddy kind of went out the equivalent to Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi,
Straight up bitch move, right? And then, shit, it took him 30 years to bring Boba back.
New Nightmare isn't on my list, so I feel I can wax a little bit more proxy here.
Appreciate that. Especially since you reviewed it also, so...
Yeah, I feel like the premise for it
was
sound like it was a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it was executed as well as it could have been, though.
Agreed.
My biggest complaint with New Nightmare, and I discussed this in my review. Feel free to go back and check out the entirety of the review if you'd like. My biggest beef with that was that Chase died too soon.
Yes.
Nancy's
Thank
husband.
You. Yes.
I feel like if Chase, the character, Heather's husband in the movie, had lasted to and died where Julie had.
Right.
And if Julie had died where Chase had, it would have been a little bit better, because they set it up where Chase is this workaholic. He's never really home to give Dylan, of all people, the time he deserves.
Yeah.
God bless Miko Hughes, Gage from Pet Cemetery, one of Michelle's friends on Full House.
That kid had some crazy ass roles in his young life. I'll tell you what.
But they portray Chase as this workaholic, so I think it would have sent Dylan further off the deep end if his babysitter had died first.
Yeah.
And then Chase has to come home, and you're finally starting to get that reconnection between Dylan and Chase, because his dad's not always around. And then just when you're getting that reconnect, Chase is taken away too.
Yeah. I
That's how I would have booked it, Wes. I know you're not alive to hear this.
Right. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Wes Craven. But that's how I would have booked it. I would have taken away the second most prominent person in his life, because obviously he's a mama's boy.
Oh, very much so.
And then just as soon as he's getting close to his dad again, rip that away from him too.
Because that very much relates back to other great horror and movie, period. Because you figure, they made an entire movie telling the story of a movie called Saving Mr. Banks. Because the entirety of Mary Poppins has nothing to do with Mary Poppins whatsoever. It's about the rise before the movie, the fall, and the redemption of George Banks. Because he's so disconnected from his family. He's a workaholic. He's got no real connection. And Mary Poppins being there reestablishes that. It also is very much akin to Tina's role in the god-awfulness that is Halloween, the Revenge of Michael Myers. Because Tina's like the last real anything that Jamie has. And she sacrifices herself after being completely aloof the entirety of the damn movie to make sure Jamie survives. And just that reaction when Michael just guts Jamie internally as well. And she has to recoil and back away in fear.
Yeah.
That would have been a great thing to go. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I also love New Nightmare because it takes place in 1994 in Los Angeles, and they're dealing with the aftermath of the Northridge earthquake, which was affected so many of us that were alive back then.
Yeah,
that earthquake
was a good touch.
Yeah, their earthquake, with all due respect to the censors of YouTube, that earthquake fucked shit up out here. Okay.
I love how you're trying to appease the censors of YouTube. Like I didn't drop the F-bomb how many times 2 weeks ago?
Well, we were talking about something we're passionate about. We're women's wrestling.
Harvey fucking Whippleman, if you missed it.
And we do talk about Bruno on this show, just not that one. We love you, Bruno. Man, God bless you for that promo all those years ago. Anyway. Oh, God. It's almost as bad as the Sid leg break and Paul Roma. Well, just Paul Roma. Anyway, there you go. But he's still a horseman because life is not fair. Anyway.
As is Jeff J-E-F-F.
That's right.
J-A-R-R-E-T-T. And Meacham acknowledged it as if he was right. Roman Reigns.
It is on Twitter and everything. Okay. New Nightmare took a chance and it paid off. Because
in some ways,
it
didn't pay off as well as it should have.
Yes,
but it definitely took a big chance, and it did deliver on the chance. It just didn't take to where I think they really wanted it to jumpstart to.
Yeah, because you figure we didn't get Freddy vs. Jason for 9 more years.
Yeah, I think that if this had done better, we probably wouldn't have gotten Scream. We would have gotten a second New Nightmare.
Yeah.
And because New Nightmare didn't succeed where Wes really thought it should, we ended up with Scream.
I just like it. So that's why it's high as it is. Again,
That's fair. So. Exactly. But, considering I haven't spoken much, granted, I've been doing side work for a future show we're filming at the same time.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Yes.
But a lot of the things he's been talking about I have on my list too, so I don't want to speak on them and then not be able to talk on my own list.
Yes.
So
number 3 is a more recent one I've seen as well.
Okay.
Probably going to make Uncle Bruce rather happy it's so high up on the list. Okay. Because he has told me for years that everything past this point, except for the very beginning of the 6th one, take that shit and leave it on the shelf where it belongs. The final chapter, Friday the 13th. Part 4. He dies, but he doesn't. I mean, let's be real. It's Jason. He'll never die. He'll never die. Woo! But the final chapter, as it was conceived, as executed, was a unbelievably good ending to what had been a game changer in that franchise. When you figure that it was made originally, the first one, as almost a copycat of Halloween, just with the gore amped up, with the suspense amped up, with the unbelievable theme of sexual promiscuity being completely derided as opposed to only implied in Halloween.
With the killer being the mom.
Right? Yeah. I very much agree with our Friday the 13th Lord and Master Bruce that 1 through 4 is probably as close to a perfect horror villain story as you're ever going to get. It starts out with his mother, trying to get everybody back for letting her boy die. The second one, at the end of the first one, let me be clear, he comes back to right the wrong of his mother being murdered. We get the mask in part 3 and sets the tone. And then this is it. He meets his end in this. It's the final chapter.
Until it's not.
Until it's not. And then the damn movie studios went, oh, there's more to be made here. 5 was what it was. I mean, it really wasn't even a Jason story. He's not even in the damn movie for real. Right? And then, like I said, the beginning of part 6 where they resurrect him with a freaking lightning rod I mean, that was hysterical. Probably the best resurrection I've seen in a horror movie. For real. Everything after that was just like, oh, God. He went to hell, and he's still back. Motherfucker went to space, and he's still here. No.
No Jason. That's a bad Jason.
No New Line. That's a bad New Line. Let's be clear there. Because Jason didn't do it on purpose.
New Line only had their hands in Goes to Hell, X, and Freddy Versus.
Who had it before New Line? I forget.
Paramount.
Oh, God, Paramount. Okay, you know what? I'm pissed at you anyway, Paramount, but we'll get to that off air. Talk to you asses later. Streaming service pissed me off last night. Anyway, either way, no studio that's a bad studio past this one.
I still remember to this day, and I always tell this story. My dad and I went to the old Lakewood Center South theaters in 1988, I want to say it was.
Oh, my goodness.
And the primary posters that were being promoted at this time were Big Top Pee-wee and Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh, my God. Talk about a...
I wanted to see Jason Takes Manhattan.
Right.
We saw Big Top Pee-wee. I'm still not sure we made the right decision. As much as I love Pee-wee, considering I was 12 at the time, I think Jason Takes Manhattan might have been the better film at that particular moment.
I don't think there's a better option either way.
Can we just take option C, stick our money back in our pocket, and go to Fuddruckers?
You think option C and go cash in and win the world title from Bully Ray? Jesus Christ. What a horrible cinematic choice to have to make. Jason Takes Manhattan or Big Top Pee-wee. Jerry's probably going, my bad, son. Come on, let's go home. Bullshit. Because Big Top Pee-wee, I also just saw that recently, and my God, is that bad.
To this day, I haven't seen Big Top Pee-wee since.
No.
And I've only seen Jason Takes Manhattan once, when Renegades Reviews was the audio format, and I ran through the entire saga.
Oh, my God. Seriously.
So I'm looking forward to doing the Friday saga again down the road so I can actually do a physical review. But, man...
Manhattan is totally worthless except for that thing that has become the gif of gifs on Messenger where he kicks that mailbox in the next week. Other than that...
There's also the very young appearance of Kelly Hu.
Yeah, okay.
In that movie.
Right.
Which That's a game we ought to be able to do one day. You know, if we ever get together and can do another Renegade recap,
Yes.
we need to bring on a special guest and do like a trivia challenge esque type of thing. And I will give you a famous actor or actress. You tell me which horror franchise they were in.
Ooh, okay.
Because there's a lot of
Oh,
famous actors and actresses that either got their start in,
yep.
or if it wasn't their start, a very early role for them is somehow connected to one of the main horror franchises.
You figure. I'll go ahead and give you all a couple of answers right now off the top.
Yeah.
You figure Johnny Depp and Kevin Bacon's kills in the Freddy and Jason franchises are two of the most brutal ones of the early ones.
And here we go. How about you throw up the graphic for the movie we're actually talking about again? Part 4.
Oh yeah.
Corey Feldman and the original George McFly himself, Crispin Glover, are both in this movie.
Yes, and not only that. Okay, so when I finally got these movies on DVD, and I was coming up to watching Part 4, and my buddy Travis mentioned the Crispin Glover dance, I'm like, wait, what? And I watched the movie, I'm like, man, George McFly was a fucking crazy man.
This was a year prior to Back to the
Back
Future.
to the Future, yeah. Crispin Glover,
Obvious, which was his high point and
right,
his low point, depending on how you look at it, because
right,
he didn't come back for any of the others, had the lawsuit with the movie studios over his likeness being used in Part 2.
yep.
Arguably, Crispin Glover has not been the same since. He's
No.
done some stuff, some notable stuff,
Oh yeah, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, for one thing.
but he was never as high as he was in Back to the Future as George McFly.
No, and whatever else people will tell you, he's always been a strange cat, and the fact that he's
Absolutely
remembered for being a dancing fool in this movie.
He plays Willy Wonka in the parody epic movie.
I know.
So, but we digress.
Yes.
Reeling it back in.
Number 2, you're gonna love me for number 2.
Okay, let's do it. What's number 2?
And that's all I want to say.
2. Okay.
As much as the original Frankenstein meant to you, meant to me because you first showed it to my boy, his first real horror movie he actually saw, Bride is just one of those movies that every theme in this movie has branched out and been done so many different ways, so many different times. But because it was so well done here, 99% of those redos, reshills, retells hits on point. Because it's so good, it's so basic, it's so just raw, primal emotion. Everybody wants somebody to love and to be loved by. Even this monster who was created out of all these other people. Even the monster wants to be loved. And when she finally awakens and she looks at him and he smiles like a little boy on Christmas at seeing who he gets to go through life with, and she just recoils, just rejects him, and he makes the decision that neither one of them need to be on this earth no more. It's gut-wrenching. It is heartbreaking. It is, as my dad and I always say about the news stories that really go sideways, that's fucked up. Like it tears at every part of your soul. Even me, I ain't got no damn soul. Well, I kind of do now because the mouse kind of infused me with one. But, yeah, Bride of Frankenstein is only not number 1 because of, well, I'll talk about number 1 here in a second. But
we all know what your number 1 is, Jeff. It's Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
No. I was going to think of a funny quip, but just, no, it's not. Nor is it Halloween 2 the real one, by the way, for the record. Bride is of the classic that you and I both love, that everybody should love. That's not subjective. That's fact, damn it. Universal Monsters. It's the best of the best, sequel-wise.
Agreed.
So, all right. So, number one, you mentioned Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie, and I'm not going to shit on Rob too much today. I'm going to try real hard. Really am, because I'm still mad at the monsters, Rob. Still mad about that, by the way. Not a fan. Is what it is. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 had the potential, and we all thought for a lot of years was the end. Michael was gone. There was no bringing it back. There was some stank on it, not in a good way. And then Blumhouse and Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter, the master himself, went, let's try this. And saved the damn franchise again. Now, that's a hot take. That's the best sequel. But I'm going with it. Subjective.
Exactly.
Without that one, people love or hate Halloween Kills. Whatever. I like it. People are giving their opinions even right now because it just came out about Halloween Ends. And I will give my thoughts on that when the time is right. Knowing I probably already have on social media because you're watching this after the fact. But
let's be real. Jeff will be giving his thoughts on Halloween Ends on Renegades Reviews Halloween evening.
There you go. Week from the night. Because
if anybody needs to talk about the end of Halloween with me, it's Jeff motherfucking Meacham.
Especially if what Jamie says, and this is the end, then I gotta be there for the end, right? People love or hate Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. He hates them. I go back and forth, honestly. But it definitely could have been. I
tolerate the first one. I hate the second one.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
But it could have been the first. It could have been the end of the franchise, and the way the two played out, maybe it should have been.
Yeah.
If they left it like that, it should have been the end. Resurrection should have been the end. Resurrection killed it. Ha ha ha! Note the irony, folks.
Yeah.
But man, the original idea of this one, where all right, we've retconned this shit so many times. Screw it. Only the first one counts now. No more sibling bullshit. He's just crazy. And you're like, okay, whatever. And it works. Because there's no more, he's driven because he killed the rest of his family. It's just, he's just this force of nature. Which is what he was supposed to be in 1978. There's a reason in the credits he's credited as the Shape. Not Michael Myers. Not young Michael Myers. Not the dude in the mask. He's the Shape. Because he goes through the town as this unstoppable force of nature and just wipes everybody out, including our girl PJ. Just
totally.
There you go. 2018 Halloween brought him back to that. There was no rhyme nor reason except the instinct, the urge to kill, to destroy, to wipe everything out in his path.
Agreed.
And I thought that was the perfect way to go. The only reason I will, to this day now, shit on Halloween Kills is the stupid catchphrase. Evil must die. Evil must die. Or whatever the hell it was. It was so corny. But at least this particular facet of the franchise, this last trilogy, it looks like, and again, haven't seen it for sure, because we haven't watched it as of this taping. It looks like it is the definitive end to the franchise, because they're killing off every goddamn body.
And that's what it needs to be. There needs to be no resurrection again once Halloween ends.
Right.
Otherwise, you shouldn't have called it that.
No. Nope.
Period. It needs to be the end of Michael.
Yeah, and again, I haven't heard this outright said, but I have heard it permeate that Jamie or somebody said one of the other is going to die.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then for God's sake, it needs to be it. If Michael accomplishes his goal, good on you, bro. Lifetime Achievement Award. Now get out of Haddonfield and go home. If Jamie survives, good. She killed him off and saved the town for everybody else that didn't get whacked off. There you go. End of it. Done. But this is my favorite sequel because without it, I don't think we would have got a true fan's definitive, proper ending to the franchise. And at the end of the day, it's the first horror movie I ever saw on opening night in the theater as it happened.
There you go.
Now, as we get ready to hear JJ's, because I know JJ and his horror stuff is just awesome.
I feel like it's going to be even more subjective than yours, but we'll get there in a minute.
Yes. Coming up, as the dog barks, because we're taping and, I get to do that. Hang on a second.
So you've heard Jeff's list. You know that I've been doing horror movies all month. Let's go ahead and throw to and take a look at what we've got in store on Renegades Reviews coming next month, the month of November.
So there it is. Cannot wait for those. I mean, if you don't love Sandra Bullock, you talk about Heaven Knows Soul. How do you not love Sandra Bullock as the lead actress or even a supporting actress? Like, what is wrong with you out there for real?
I mean, we talked ad nauseum last year about Tom Hanks being the boy next door. And once Meg Ryan kind of ran her course there in the 80s, early 90s, I feel like Sandra Bullock just snatched the 40 out of her hand. Was like, I got this.
Right.
And carried it for many a touchdown because Sandra, and especially starting in Demolition Man, because that was where I first noticed her, really kind of carried that girl next door persona.
Yes, she did. And you've got those. You've got like every week except Country Redacted, we're going to be featuring the pay-per-view watch-alongs on both our channels. But man, you're carrying those. You've got
Open Mic
cannot
Night.
wait. What's that?
Open Mic Night.
Open Mic Night every week. I'll tell you what, man. I've been plugging it almost like I feel like a company shill after I got the job. But man, The Santa Claus franchise is finally coming back. I am so happy for that, and I'm happy you're covering it on Renegades Reviews on your Thursday slot starting on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I couldn't ignore the Santa Clauses, dude. Like, as much as we love Scott Calvin,
right?
The fact that Bernard is back, which I know makes my daughter
oh my God, right?
ecstatic.
Oh,
And what better way to kick off the holidays than a Thanksgiving Day drop?
exactly.
It'll be back the week prior, but I always go the week after, give y'all a week to see it before I do the TV show reviews.
Exactly.
I couldn't ignore the Santa Claus.
No. And what's really crazy about
I feel like I would have been fired from the channel and the multiverse of media if I had ignored the Santa Clauses.
Dude, I will always say that as much as I have and forever will love Edmund Gwenn in Miracle on 34th Street, Scott Calvin will always be our generation's definitive movie Santa Claus. Right or wrong on that feeling, it is what it is. But man, when you think about it, not only is that premiering that Wednesday, it's 2-episode premiere the night before. Friday, they're finally going to release that Mickey documentary, which, gee, am I looking forward to that? So, Disney's got a good month coming up for us. You've got Sandra Bullock on your channel.
And let's not scoff at New Release Saturday, which is bookended in November by superheroes. You've got Black Adam with Dwayne Johnson. And in the month, it's Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. And then in the mix of that, you've got the based on a true story, Till, and Weird, the Al Yankovic story with Harry Potter as Weird Al.
Right.
And oh my God, when I saw the picture of him dressed as Al the first time, I damn near crapped myself because it was so spot on.
Oh, I know.
It was very much like looking at Tom in the Mr. Rogers outfit.
Yeah.
So spot on.
I very much, I actually, that's how twisted I am. I likened it to Fiona Dourif as Charles Lee Ray. Because I didn't know. No idea when I watched the episode of Chucky who that was. So much good. I actually, when I signed the kiddo and I in earlier in the month at Disneyland, man, they had just released the first real poster for Wakanda Forever, man. That was all over. That was talked about throughout the whole park, throughout the whole resort. It was the big talk. The company's looking forward to how the reaction's going to be, I think, because of how they're having to move forward without him. It's definitely going to be an interesting experience company-wide, how that plays out. So, we'll see.
Absolutely.
All right.
So now that we've gotten that out of the way.
Now we did a corporate showing and kissed all the mouse butt.
On to my list. And like I said prior to the break, I feel like my list is going to be even more subjective than Jeff's.
Yes.
But different strokes, different folks. It just kind of is what it is. Yep. Number 10 on my list is definitely more drama than horror.
Okay.
But it does deal with your standard horror topics, vampires specifically. Number 10 for me is Queen of the Damned.
Oh, man.
Stuart Townsend as Lestat and Aaliyah as Akasha, the Queen of the Damned. Now, I know when my girlfriend sees this, she's going to give me massive shit for this because she loathes this movie with a passion.
Really?
Because of how they tried to jam like 3 books into one movie.
That's fair. That's fair for her to argue that.
She is a huge Anne Rice Lestat fan.
Yes.
So she was very critical of this. About as critical as I was of the Benicio Guillermo del Toro Wolfman.
Wow.
That's how critical she is of Queen of the Damned.
That's heavy. That's deep shit. That's deep cut there.
I love this film.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
It always hit a soft spot with me because I was such a huge Aaliyah fan.
Yep.
And the fact that she passed before this was able to be released the fact that she passed away mere days before she was supposed to go in the studio and record a duet with Jonathan Davis from Korn, who was Lestat's singing voice.
Yeah.
And we could have had a Jonathan Davis Aaliyah duet in our midst. Like, legit, if memory serves me correctly, she passed on a Sunday. That Tuesday, she was supposed to be in the studio with him.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Like, what could have been?
Another
And
one of
for
those.
years at the apartment, I had the issue from the press telegram the week that the movie actually hit theaters. And the headline for the entertainment section is, "What do you do when your star dies?"
Right?
It's like, okay, press telegram, dick move. I get where you're coming from on your marketing, but dick move headline.
Yeah, awful. Yeah, that was clickbait before clickbait was a word.
I mean,
Clickbait. Just awful. And it is. It's very much like with The Crow.
yeah,
Granted, Brandon died on set. That was a fucked up thing. But so was Aaliyah's death, just not in the same actual vein. But yeah, it's again, what could have been going forward when you figure how deep Anne Rice's library is.
yeah. And how good her performance was. Like, to her credit, she has Romeo Must Die and Queen of the Damned.
Yep.
And she was right on that cusp of breaking through that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, you look at where Beyonce has gotten.
Yes.
That could have been Aaliyah instead.
It could have been.
That could have been Aaliyah in Goldmember.
Yep.
You know?
Well, yes and no. I again, it's hard for me because Beyonce did such a phenomenal job for what that movie was. But I don't know if I saw Aaliyah as a ha-ha character actress.
I definitely did. She had that personality to her.
Okay. Again,
what better way to continue your filmography? You go from this martial arts action film to this horror drama to this goofball comedy. Now you've pretty much touched every olive branch there is in Hollywood. I can do it all.
That's fair. That's fair. Good start though. I happen to like the take on the start. I know up in household, happy mama won't be a thing, but it is what it is.
Hey, that's why I'm filming this while she's not here.
And that's why his relationship works and why I'm sitting here in my underwear single. There you go. Very good. Okay.
Not that we needed that mental image.
I need to know that, but just to say it is what it is.
All right. So number 9 on my list, you kind of briefly touched on this earlier. And I mentioned that for me, it's part of a bigger. I cheated and went Son of, Ghost of, and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman as one entry.
Okay.
And I did this because, number one, the Universal monster movies were short as shit.
Yes.
One of these barely clocks in over an hour.
Right.
So, by today's standards, that's still probably shorter than watching one movie of Lord of the Rings. But then I grouped this all together because at the end of the day, yes, these are Frankenstein movies, but this is the Igor saga.
Yes.
And so that's why I lumped them together. In Son of Frankenstein, we first meet Igor.
Yes.
Played so beautifully by Bela Lugosi. Probably my favorite character of him that isn't Count Dracula.
I would agree with that.
And you meet Igor, and he's a character who was hung, but he didn't die. His neck is broken, and he's just kind of working with the son of Count Frankenstein, son of trying to help resurrect the monster. He gets close to the monster, forms this bond with the monster. Then we get to Ghost of Frankenstein. Still got Lugosi as Igor. Chaney is in the role of the monster now.
Jeez.
And they want to try to cure the monster. They want to try to put a new brain in the monster. And Lugosi convinces them to put his brain, Igor's brain, into the monster's body. which is why Lugosi portrays the monster in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Long-term storytelling,
Storytelling,
folks.
that's it.
And they filmed the movie with him saying lines and everything, but they thought it sounded so corny hearing Lugosi's voice cut out of the monster's body that they erased all his dialogue,
Oh,
which just hurt the movie, in my opinion.
yeah. I
Because
agree.
because you get a little bit of Igor talking as the monster at the end of Ghost of Frankenstein. You
Yeah.
see Chaney moving his mouth, and it's Lugosi's voice coming out.
Oh, okay.
So for this, now he's portraying the monster. It completely explains why it sounds like Igor. It's Igor's brain.
Right. I I
I
find it. Oh, good.
I was just gonna say it was such a beautifully told story. Better trilogy, in my opinion, than the original Frankenstein Bride and Son. You take this little 3-movie trilogy, smoosh it up into one movie, the Igor saga, and man, it's just some great storytelling.
Absolutely. Is that so? Is the monster the only character? Again, I'm asking my expert here. The only monster of the classic ones to be played by all three of them?
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
And Chaney's the only one to play all 4 of the majors, as he was the son of Dracula. He's
Yes.
the monster in Ghost. He's the mummy in 3 of the 5 mummy movies, and he's the only Wolfman.
Wow. So Boris Karloff wasn't the mummy in the majority of them? I didn't know that. Interesting.
He was only the mummy in the very first one.
Wow. Learning something every day, kids. It's horror month here on the Casa the Network. There you go.
There we go. So that's my number 9. And it's funny that we segued to the mummy, because number 8 for me is the mummy's hand.
Ooh, okay.
This one did not have Boris as the mummy. This was the second one in the series, and it didn't have Chaney. It had Tom Tyler in the role of Karis, the mummy.
Ah,
And what I liked about this one, and again, you can go back, you can watch my review from last year on this.
right.
I really liked Dick Ferran and Wallace Ford, who were the
Okay.
2 male leads in this. They very much portrayed, for lack of a better comparison, an Abbott and Costello type of vibe to me.
Ah, okay.
Before Abbott and Costello met the mummy, which was god awful. I love Abbott and Costello, but that movie was the drizzling shit.
It really was.
This movie kind of had that same style of vibe without it actually being Abbott and Costello.
Did it better, apparently. So
They were so good together. They had a great chemistry. You had the tall, slender guy, the shorter, fatter guy. You know, they even came back for the beginning of the third one, ended up dying off so that the story could then continue.
of course.
But just the fact that those 2 characters were popular enough that they came back for the beginning of the next sequel, I thought that just kind of showed how good they worked together.
And how strong that story was. So that's a great take. Can't argue with it.
Honestly, I think I prefer this one to the original Karloff Mummy.
Ooh, that's a interesting take.
I mean, I haven't seen all of them that many times,
Right. That's fair.
but this one stands out better in my memory than even the Karloff one does. So, again, you see it scrolling along the bottom there, subjective. I'm very curious. I'm only 3, and I'm very curious what our fans are thinking of my lists so far. Because
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to watching the playback on the 20 when we air this.
So number 7 on my list, you kind of touched on this a little bit when you talked about Scream.
Okay.
Scary Movie 2.
Oh, jeez.
It very well was played for the ha-ha.
Very much so. Yes.
But it's still a horror movie. It's a horror
yeah.
comedy.
Yeah.
It's the last one the Wayans brothers were in.
Yes.
You also had, Tim Curry.
Yep.
So anytime you can get Tim Curry into a role, can you really fault it?
This
I
one,
mean-
no. I mean, like I said, I like the Scary Movie franchise when they were being released, but, so did every other 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old, goober. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, it was just, it was what it was. You had Tori Spelling in it. You had Kathleen Robertson in it from 90210.
yes,
So there's something to resonate to me
me
growing up
too.
with 90210.
Yes, sir, absolutely. I
I
can do
I
it.
I really I haven't seen any of the scary movies past part 2.
Okay,
Once the Wayans is left,
right.
I've heard mixed reviews. It's
Yeah,
definitely a mixed bag on them,
yeah,
but it's definitely something I do want to do at some point. I'll probably next time I do the horror franchises, I got to do Friday the 13th, got to do Child's Play. Maybe I'll do Scary Movie, you know. It'll definitely be working at some point where I'm going to have to
yeah,
see them. But
yeah.
I think for right now I'm okay with the fact that there's part 1 and part 2 and that's it.
That's right. 3, I only really like 3 because the horror trope they use of killing off the big star at the beginning. It's two very prominent, popular blonde actresses. So there you go. Other than that, kind of take a leave that one.
Fair, fair.
But this one I can do without the butler's hands. I'm okay with that. Going, I've never seen
See,
that
and I
again.
thought that was hilarious.
Oh, oh.
Chris Elliott was so good as that.
And I love Chris
character.
Elliott. I do. But oh my god. Oh, yuck. Look at that.
And then following the segue, we go right into Scream 2.
There you go. There you go.
Rounding out the bottom half of my 5.
Yes.
I enjoy Scream 2. I had it on my musical moments from non-musical movies list. Jerry O'Connell's performance of I Think I Love You, where the killer is his hype man.
Yep.
And Rebecca Gayheart, the killer and urban legend, is at the other table watching, and neither one of them gut him in the middle of that college cafeteria.
Yeah.
Restraint.
He's looking out there when he did.
Restraint. But I do enjoy part 2. I'm looking forward to, I was looking forward to, and I enjoyed watching them all again because 1 through 3 I've seen 100 times.
Of course.
Part 4 I've seen once, maybe twice. Now can add another one to the viewing since I watched it for this month.
Yeah.
The new one I hadn't seen yet, so watching it to review it this year was my first time watching it.
Cool deal.
I enjoy this franchise, and as much as I enjoy watching this franchise, I secretly hate Wes Craven for the Scream franchise.
Yeah.
Because he revitalized the genre and he killed the genre in one fell swoop.
Yep.
Because I will stand on and die on the hill that horror movies are never the same once you watch Randy give away the rules to the horror movies.
Yeah. Forever.
And if I get to meet him at CreepyCon, I'm going to tell him that shit to his face. You killed horror movies for me.
You a bad man, Jamie Kennedy. You a bad man for that.
Not his fault. He did what was in the script.
Okay.
But his character of Randy killed horror movies for me because after watching Scream and being told the rules of the horror movie, every horror movie you watch after, you watch as those rules come to play, and it's 100% accurate. You have
Without
sex,
question.
you die. You drink, do drugs, you die. You say you're going to be right back, you are not right back.
What I love
Period,
about
point blank.
the franchise is Scream 5, even though they just called it Scream, whatever, was the first horror movie that I saw with the boy in theater premiere week.
Nice.
Yes, he was under 17. No, I don't care because he's allowed to go with me.
Exactly. As long as he's with his parent, that's all that matters.
That's the rules. And we both enjoyed the shit out of that movie. And his reaction, if you've not seen the newest Scream movie, spoiler alert. I'll even put a freaking ticker in post-production. Jesus Christ, whatever. Having him watch me and my reaction to David Arquette's death in that movie, knowing that we're buddies with Arquette, he, are you okay, Daddy? I'm like, no, I was not ready for that at all. Man, Dewey got fucked up in that scene. Like, no. I was a mess the rest of the movie. Like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, you don't understand what just happened in my life right now. I watched a bunny get messed up. It sucks.
Yep.
So, but yeah, Scream, you're right. You're 100% right. Wes completely revitalized the genre and then completely just gutted it in his own way. But
I mean, you think about where the horror movie genre was prior to Scream. And you had movies like New Nightmare, Freddy's Dead, Jason Goes to Hell,
yep,
Halloween 4, 5, and 6. All of which very well could have been straight to VHS movies.
It's even talked about in a book about the franchise. 5 was heading that way, and it got saved last minute. Curse was in development hell for what, like 7 years? And it was almost direct to DVD. What do you want to freaking thing back then? Direct to video 4 or 5 different times. And that was 1995. Scream was what, 96?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Wes definitely did. Itself owes everything to Wes Craven and Scream.
Yep. Because you figure after Scream and Scream 2, H2O, which arguably also saved Halloween, even though it's only for a few years before Resurrection hit it in the head with a shovel in a kung fu fight.
Mm-hmm.
Same with, Jason and Freddy came back a few years later, but they still did come back. So good on Wes.
As did this guy who hadn't really been seen for about 7 years by the time he came back.
The time jump.
Bride of Chucky.
Yes. Oh, man. So good.
I will concede the fact that by the time we got to this point, Chucky was a ha-ha more than he was any kind of serious killer.
Right.
But something about the sadistic little shit of a doll and his quirky one-liners and all of the meta moments in that movie. I mean, just in the opening 5 minutes alone, when they go to steal the doll and you see Freddy's glove, you see Jason's mask, you see Leatherface's chainsaw, you see all of these different things. And then as if that's not enough, when they kill John Ritter and turn him into Pinhead, like it's very much you guys may have paved the way, thank you, type of moment for all of those franchises, and then some.
Yeah.
Bride of Chucky, next to the original, is my favorite in the entire franchise. It really is, because it's the first one in the franchise that I saw in theaters.
Right.
So it's always got that sentimental moment for me. And despite having been a 90210 fanatic, it took me a while to really kind of gravitate to part 2 with Christina Ricci as Kyle. Like I didn't accept it at first.
Okay, makes sense.
It was very slow moving to me.
I will agree with that.
And at that age, you want something that's going to move a little bit quicker.
Yeah, two takes a while to get going, but once it does, man, it goes. So,
and I felt like Chucky had died so definitively. It's like, how are you going to resurrect it?
Yeah,
But then you figure the fact that the soul is in a toy, so if you just remove the box from the toy, put it into a brand new body, bam, there you go. Okay, so it makes sense, but yeah.
I will say this: Bride of Chucky still for me. And again, I haven't seen every horror movie, every horror thriller slasher kill. Bride of Chucky for me still has the most brutal death of any movie character I've ever seen, and probably will ever see. When that poor dude gets hit by that truck, that is fucking. I mean, you talk about blood and guts. That's all that dude is left as.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I can not just talking about it, let alone watching it. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
And you know, Bride of Chucky is the movie that I always flash back to when I rewatch season 1 of Chucky, and that one scene with Chucky talking to the boy, and Chucky's trying to explain to him, is like, I'm not this horrible person like everybody has imagined me to be.
Right.
I've only killed people who deserve it. And
It's
if you
true.
really think about it, he's not lying there.
Other than
You know,
Andy.
and especially if you think about this movie, because
Yeah.
John Ritter's character deserved that shit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The couple in the honeymoon cottage deserved that shit.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
You know, you go back to the original, and the voodoo dude deserved that shit.
Yeah.
You know, you think about a lot of Chucky's kills, most of them did deserve that shit.
I would say that.
So it's like you sit there and you watch that, and it's like, huh, I never really thought about it in that way. It's like, yeah, Chucky is this sadistic midget doll serial killer, but how many of his kills have been unwarranted?
Yeah. How many of the successful kills have actually been non-deserving?
And the only one I can really think of off the top of my head that I always go to, Aunt Maggie.
Yeah, that was messed up. They did not the man off dirty in that movie.
But that's the only one I can really think of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you really want to get down to it, Andy was trying to tell her the truth. She didn't want to believe her. So there's the devil's advocate of that coin about her deserving it or not. The boy was telling her the truth, and she didn't want to listen to him. So Chucky killed her.
We'll continue on with more justifying serial killers here next on the Dads on Dollars Wrestling as we move along the list.
Yeah, because you mentioned this one when we talked about how Wes Craven revitalized the franchises. H2O.
Oh man, here we go with this. Goodness gracious.
You know, this movie is what it is. There's people that love
I
this
love it.
movie. There's people that hate this movie. I still wish that they hadn't completely retconned this. I wish the timeline could be Halloween, Halloween 2, H2O, and then the Blumhouse.
Right. Okay.
You know, like I wish that could be the timeline.
Yeah.
But alas, it's not.
No.
So I just got to suck it up and deal with it. But I mean, the fact that Jamie Lee was willing to come back to the franchise that made her a star after years of being a household name.
Yeah.
You think Trading Places, you think A Fish Called Wanda, you think freaking
True Lies.
Thank you, True Lies. I was trying to remember the Schwarzenegger one. Total Recall was on the brain, but I knew that wasn't it.
No.
True Lies. You think of all these things that Jamie did between 1981 Halloween 2 and this.
Yep.
And she didn't have to come back.
No. Nope.
But she did.
She chose.
She knew that the fans would wet themselves.
Yeah, and they did, most definitely.
You know, I have nothing but respect for that type of stuff.
Yep.
Whenever I hear about that for any kind of movie or TV show, I always, pop hard. The last one that I can really think of that I popped for it was Anchorman 2. And I'm not Farrell's biggest fan. But the fact that Steve Carell and Paul Rudd and everybody else that was his supporting cast in the original Anchorman, who had blown the fuck up since it,
Oh
were
yeah.
willing to take a significant pay cut to come back, Farrell included,
Yeah.
to
Oh
make
yeah.
the sequel because the fans wanted more of Ron Burgundy. I applaud that.
And the fact that he still can exist at any point because the damn Kings just can't let him die.
Him and Snoop Dogg.
Hey, you know what? I got no problem with Snoop because Snoop at least comes in as himself, and he's not me because I don't live there. I never really was fully ingratiated, but he's one of us, man. He's a soul cowboy, so it's I'm okay with it. Ron, again, Will is a diehard Kings fan, and I love the shit out of him for that. But man, his movies are bad. So it's give and take. Love Will. Great, glad he's a Kings fan. Glad he's passionate. Oof, everything past SNL is hit or miss.
Agreed.
And I will say this about H2O. It was my gateway drug to horror films. It was the first one I ever, as far as the Halloween franchise, I think of that. It's my gateway to Halloween because I saw that one first. And Jamie Lee came back because John was coming back. Whether he was going to direct or not, he was still back involved. And that was the caveat. If John comes back, I will come back. If Jamie Lee comes back, I'll come help. Much like the 2018, those two coming together, what is continuing to save this franchise.
Agreed.
And why we have the movie we had come out this month, because without those two, you can talk about Nick Castle as the original Shape. You can talk about John's collaboration with Deborah and all that. The John being back and Jamie Lee being back is what sparks the fire that lights the franchise.
Exactly.
It's the way it is. And H2O is a very great example of that because, yes, they retconned Danielle's trilogy. Yes, they retconned the ending of this one. Ugh. But in and of itself, it's a great way to bring things back to where they should have been after 1981.
Agreed. And this is the number 7 that I kept alluding to that I had on my list since it's the 7th film in the franchise.
There you go. And again, it's literally one line in one scene of H2O that completely is negated and retcons the Thorn trilogy. I don't know if you all haven't heard the story. I'll be very brief. There's a scene at the school before they go off to their little adventure there, or most of the kids do, that I believe not Michelle Williams, but the other girlfriend character, forgive me, y'all, I'm horrible with names, is giving a oral report on the Haddonfield murders, not knowing, of course, that Carrie Tate is Laurie Strode, and talking about that Laurie Strode faked her death, and as a result, her daughter was brought up by foster care and had just recently been found and murdered by Michael, and Carrie Tate retreats to the bathroom in her completely traumatized delusional state and loses her cookies into the toilet because she realizes that her actions have caused her daughter's death. They took out that one little snippet out of the script and it changed everything. They leave that in, we is continuous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it should have been. I really do. But
me too.
It is what it is. We're trying to justify shit 25 years later. What are you gonna do?
Exactly. So the last 3 movies on my list were all on your list.
Yes.
So coming in first, the final chapter, supposedly, of Friday the 13th.
Right. Ugh.
And for me, for this one, it all comes down to Corey Feldman.
Yep.
Him as Tommy Jarvis. That is my link to that movie. That is what I love about the movie. That is the part that I will forever praise about this movie. I am not Corey Feldman's biggest fan. No. But I have nothing bad to say about him in this film.
No.
And the fact that he is able to convince Jason that Jason is a boy.
Yeah.
And just totally screw with his mind. I love that shit.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you this before you move on to your next one. Because, these horror franchises have endured because there's been so many sequels and there's so many different ways you can interpret or criticize or whatever. Do you think Jason would have become the legend he's become if it was only 1 through 4 and that had been the end of it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to think about it because you can't.
I think part of what makes Jason's legend and Freddy's legend and Michael's legend be what they are is the fact that every few years there was another installment in their saga.
Okay. Right.
But I also feel like that's kind of what killed them.
Yeah. Yep.
Was that there was that overabundance, that oversaturation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if 1 through 4 of Friday the 13th had been it, if it had ended in 1984 with this movie, and then maybe in 1990 for the 10th anniversary, there had been some kind of like special something.
Yeah.
Whether it had been, cast on talk shows, promoting the 10th anniversary, whatever. I will to this day never forget the clip of Jason Voorhees on the Arsenio Hall show and Arsenio trying to conduct an interview with Jason around the time Manhattan came out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, if they had done stuff like that, post 84, I think it would have helped keep the name out there, and maybe he still would have been iconic. But I honestly think the sequels are what made them legends and ultimately brought them to their demises.
Yeah.
Too much of a good thing.
Yeah, and you look back, there's so much passion about these franchises. A lot of it is because there's so much argument, good, bad, or whatever, about the abundance of sequels.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we was talking about it, one line in one movie changed the entire direction of Halloween from Cursed H2O.
Mm-hmm.
Much like in Part 2. There was no reason Part 2 needed to be made at all, for the record. John and Deborah both said that. But because they changed that one facet of the relationship, the entire direction of the franchise up until 2018 completely went the other direction. So
absolutely.
There's a reason I want to
I'm going to touch on this point as we go through the other ones. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. There's a reason I want to do a Halloween panel for the 45th next year, because there's so much argument about what they could have done.
Mm-hmm.
What would they have done had they not gone this direction, that direction? Because of all of the slasher franchises that the core 4, Halloween's got so many freaking twists and turns. It's like being on a damn roller coaster, more than the other ones, I feel.
Agreed. Completely agree. And I'm looking forward to and dreading the fact that I still have to finish marching through this saga, because there's movies that I had never seen before.
Right.
Prior to watching them to review, I still had never seen 4, 5, and 6.
Oh my God, that's right. That's like now. What's happening right now for you? Jesus.
Everything else in the saga I've seen.
Yeah.
At least once.
Yeah.
But those I had never seen before. So it's like...
Which is so funny, having met Danielle.
Right? Like, well, I saw her in the Rob Zombie one.
Well, right, but yeah.
I'm not going to tell her I never saw that one.
Well, of course not. You don't look like a brat.
Unless you're stooging me out and sending her a clip of this, DM, because I know you slide in her DMs on occasion.
That is not even true anymore.
Continuing the topic, though, that you brought up here with Friday the 13th, my number 2, the Dream Warriors.
Oh, man. See, we're on the same wavelength. I got you.
And I feel like 1, 3, 4, and 6.
Yes.
If they had just left it at that.
Yep.
Could have been the same type of story as 1 through 4 of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Freddy's Revenge is what it is.
Yeah.
And the Dream Child was horrible.
It was.
But 1, 3, 4, and 6 You know, you got the original story with Nancy. You've got Nancy coming back here as the intern. You've
Yep.
got the continuation of this into the Dream Master. And then
Yep.
you've got Freddy's Dead.
Yeah. I think Freddy's Dead only stays because it's Freddy's Dead.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, it's Jason's ultimate demise.
Yeah.
Until he's resurrected by lightning.
Yeah. And Freddy's Dead, and we'll get to Dream Warrior. I'll let you get back to Dream Warrior. So I just want to say really quick, Freddy's Dead was so over the top, early 90s campy attempt at still preserving horror. It was like, again, you watch it for the first time, me in my case at 9 years old, you're like, oh, this is scary and it's weird. You look back now, it's like, God damn, this is bad. So, perspective is everything, and perception is reality,
Absolutely.
right, Undertaker?
Absolutely. But the Dream Warriors, for me, you know, as much as I love that Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon were back as Nancy and Donald Thompson,
yep.
As much as I love Lawrence Fishburne in this, it all comes down to the Amanda Kruger story.
Yep.
Much like Tommy Jarvis in part 4, the fact that we finally got the full story of what happened to Amanda Kruger.
Yep.
And Sister Mary Catherine. And the fact that Sister Mary Catherine, who's helping them on their journey, is Amanda Kruger. It's like, that's what makes this story for me.
Powerful shit.
It's like at the end of the day, she knows what her son is, but she's still trying to help the kids lay his body to rest so he can finally be at peace.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, and again, here we go making Freddy sympathetic, which is or isn't a good thing depending on how you look at it. But why is Freddy the way Freddy is? Because his mom was raped by 100 psychotic inmates over the course of a holiday weekend. He had no chance to begin with.
No, not
his
even
genetic makeup was psychotic killers and murderers and people that were off their rocker.
Yeah.
There was no chance in hell that this man was going to be a saint.
Nope. When you really think about it.
So getting this backstory, it just helps elevate the Freddy character.
Yep.
We get why he's the way he is.
Yep.
And it's very much what I loved about the Chucky series and finally getting that backstory on Charles Lee Ray. Shit that I've been wanting for years. And yeah, there's that throwaway scene in Curse of Chucky leads right into the beginning of the original Child's Play. But no, I want to know the story of Charles Lee Ray. And that's what they're giving us via flashbacks in Chucky. And I hope Don Mancini and crew continue to do so with season 2.
Yep.
But that's what makes this movie resonate with me so much, is we get the story of Amanda Kruger.
Yes. What I love is that what you just mentioned, which of the 4, other than our buddy Rob Zombie's attempt, doesn't have a backstory? Michael. Because he was never supposed to. He's just this wandering, senseless shape. Jason's a little boy trying to right a wrong. Freddy is the product of a one bad day gone wrong. Right, Joker? And then we're now getting Charles Lee Ray's story. I don't think those 3 characters have been hindered by us knowing their story.
No.
Whereas, if they ever did attempt an actual Michael backstory other than a reimagining of the entire thing, I think knowing Michael's backstory, even knowing that he had a sister and that's why they changed it, that hindered it to an extent. Which is why I'm glad they're not doing that with the Blumhouse trilogy. It's just, he's back to being crazy.
And it's one of the things that I did enjoy about the reboot. You know, the reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street is what it is.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that we got some of Freddy's backstory, we see how he was abused as a child. So not only is his mother raped by all these serial killers and murderers,
Right.
but then he's abused as a child too.
Yeah, we kind of got that in Freddy's Dead to an extent. It wasn't really in depth, talked about, but yeah.
It's like it totally makes sense now.
Yep. I only ever, to this day, will ever shit on the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street because, yes, they made him sympathetic, which I don't have a problem with. Yes, they went back to Wes's original intent to make him a child molester rather than just a killer. Okay, we're in a new era of time and history. Okay, push the envelope. Cool. But when he was confronted on it by the angry parents, he pussed out.
Yeah, he became apologetic.
And that is what irritated me because Robert Englund's like,
Agreed.
Yeah, I did it. What of it, bitch?
Agreed.
Whereas Jackie just completely was like, no. You change that, I'm good.
Exactly.
Anyway. Blah.
Bringing us to my number one.
Ah, see? I knew you'd love my choices for where it was.
I mean, I can't talk about this any more elaborately than you did. You hit most of the main points with it, but I mean, we kind of owe everything, good and bad, as far as modern horror sequels, to this right here.
Yep.
Because the monster died a definitive death in that windmill on fire collapsing in the original.
Yes, he did.
Why did we have to resurrect him for a sequel? Because it made money.
Yep.
Same reason we resurrected Freddy and Jason and Michael and Chucky and Pinhead and Leatherface and the Leprechaun and Jigsaw, and the list goes on and on. The reason that we have 8 entries in the original Michael franchise is because of monsters like the Monster.
Yep.
Frankenstein, Bride, Son, Ghost, Meets Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, which is a sequel to because he is in it also, all the way up to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. How many is that, Jeff?
That would be 8, sir.
How many are in the original Michael Myers?
That'd be 8, sir. Which is why, a good reason why Michael's now my favorite. Like I said,
Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Revenge, Dream Warriors, Dream Masters, Dream Child, Freddy's Dead, New Nightmare, Freddy vs. Jason. How many is that, Jeff?
That would be 8, sir. And Chucky series isn't a movie, but there were 7 movies before it.
Yeah.
So now there's an 8th part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that really violates it is Jason.
Damn you, Jason Voorhees.
Damn you, Jason Voorhees. You and your damn Detroit Red Wings hockey mask. Yeah, I said it. So what? But again, Bride just touches every freaking emotion you can possibly get out of a 19. What year was it?
33.
A 1930. Well, no, that I thought that was the first one. That's okay.
The first one was 31.
That's right. Dracula was 33, right?
No, Dracula was 31 also. They both had their 80th anniversary last year.
Okay. A 1933, like you said, our maybe movie still resonates now.
Excuse me, 90th anniversary last year.
90, yeah, I know. Yeah. We're all getting old. It's okay. 80s and 90s, it's whatever. We all getting old and shit.
So yeah, 1933 was the sequel. And for every emotion that it hit, for as much as it ripped your guts out
Oh,
when she looked at him and screamed, "We belong dead."
yeah.
You go
And
back to the scene with him and the hermit in the hut
yeah.
and the promise of the monster, the heart and the soul that he was beginning to show, which is why I wanted to show these to Dylan first. Because at the end of the day, the Frankenstein monster, the brain of a killer or not, is a toddler.
Yeah.
He is learning inside of his new body. This body has never lived before.
No.
So he's learning how to walk. He's taught how to talk. He's taught how to care. Friend. And they try to teach him how to love, only for her to turn on him.
And for him to be still so new in this life and have that realization that no, we belong dead. This isn't right. It's like, damn, that's powerful now. Fuck me.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's why it's definitely, like I said, with mine, again, mine's more narrow because I haven't seen as many of them. But man, Bride, Halloween 18 is only my number one because of the significance to me personally. But man,
Right, absolutely.
objectively, overall, Bride is the standard bearer horror genre sequel. Boom.
Agreed. I mean, at the end of the day, there would be no sequels to horror movies without Bride of Frankenstein. It was
No, not
the
at all.
first.
Yeah, and that's because it did, even by 1933 standards, did so ungodly well at the box office.
Yeah.
So
there it is. So there it is. There is my list, subjective as it may be. There is Meacham's list, subjective as it may be. What are your lists? Leave them in the comments. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over there next to Meacham. If you're watching on demand later in the day, down where? Down there.
right.
Leave them in the comments. Let us know what your top 10 horror sequels are. What did we miss? I know we missed a lot, but
Well,
again,
yeah.
Subjective.
Especially in horror sequels.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, I almost put I Still Know What You Did Last Summer on there just so I could tell the story of Bruce getting his refund back. But if that's the only reason it's going on the list is to have a story to tell about it, then it doesn't deserve a spot.
But the fact that he actually got his money back is what's the payoff of that story.
Exactly.
Because he in the theater was like, yeah, okay, you're not wrong. I bet you need to die. We concede that. Carry on, sir. The fact that he didn't go demand it back after Jason X is what surprises me.
Carry on, wayward son.
That's right. There'll be peace when we are done because we're going to take this shit off the screen. Oh, my God.
So yeah, let us know what your favorite horror sequels are that we may have missed. And, it could just be a slight because we haven't seen it yet.
Especially me. Shit.
I still need to see the Saw franchise.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
not going to, but for purposes of this, I should, but I'm not going to.
I still need to see the Leprechaun franchise.
Those are rough.
There's a lot of things that if I can sit through Jason Taking Manhattan and Going to Hell, I think I can sit through Leprechaun in the Hood.
Well,
and we'll just leave it at that. Let that percolate in your mind as you sip on your pumpkin spice lattes.
That's right. It's all time for those go back to hell with the bugs where they belong. But I digress.
By the show.
Tell you what, there's no dads in and of itself a week from today, but with Halloween being on Monday next week and Halloween Ends being the topic, you brought it up earlier, you get both of us next Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific. So definitely looking forward to I feel very much like going into Endgame and the whole. I feel like going into Endgame and the line that Spike used at the finale of Vampire Slayer. I just want to see how it ends. I'm very curious what they're going to do with Laurie and Michael.
As am I. As am I.
I'm hopeful, but also hesitant.
Yes.
I'm going to go.
Me too.
I'm going to see it.
Me too.
And then we'll see how we react a week from today.
Exactly. So make sure you guys tune into that on Renegades Reviews. Me and Mr. Meacham discussing Halloween Ends. I think this will be the first special guest I've had on reviews since bringing it back with The Rock.
I think that's true.
I don't, because I've been pretty much just sticking to myself. You know, I haven't been bringing you and Statboy in for reviews periodically. So
yeah, it's
makes Halloween all the more monumental.
It really does, and you know the fact that we get to spend the day before together at our other favorite place.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good couple of days. I will say that. And man, we talked about it. We showed the trailer during the commercial break and everything. But man, you're covering Sandra Bullock, which both of us just adore Sandy. I always have anyway. You're finally gonna get. We're finally getting Scott Calvin back. Let's just not even gloss over it, man. I'm looking forward to that.
We're finally getting Bernard back.
You know what? I thank you, because like every clip I've seen, including the trailer I included, the little Caesar, every clip I've seen or reaction I've seen, like they are on about Bernard being back, as they should be.
Because you know what? Because you know what? I can't believe I'm going to say this with Christmas, but fuck Curtis.
Oh man, I like Curtis. I do.
Let me. I'm gonna break it down like this. Okay, this is why I say fuck Curtis. Okay, and being as how you are a Santa Claus proprietor, you should be able to co-sign with me on this.
All right, fair enough.
Number one, it was his idea to make the toy Santa that damn near caused chaos and took over the North Pole.
Okay.
Number two, he's the one that told Jack the secret to the snow globes that completely altered history.
Yeah.
So you tell me where Curtis did a goddamn thing that was and number three, in the beginning of part two, he's the one listening to the freaking music that almost gave away the location of the North Pole. Where did Curtis do anything that was endearing or lovable or any kind of good? Whereas Bernard took Charlie under his wing. He knew how Scott always referred to him as Sport, called him Sport himself, without having to be told, because elves, much like Santa, are all-knowing. He cultivated Charlie. He educated Charlie. He helped Charlie grow and get closer back to his dad and mend that fence that had been broken for so long. Your Honor, I rest my case.
The following statement by Jeff Meacham does not reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company or any of its subsidiaries. Yeah, fuck Curtis. Okay. You're not wrong. Okay.
And you know what? I can't wait for my daughter to see this.
Because I know she loves part two. It's like, oh boy.
She loves part two, but she doesn't like Curtis.
Oh, okay.
The main reason she doesn't like part three is because Bernard's not in it.
This is very true. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, because there's been a lot of stuff that's gone around about what's gonna happen, how it's gonna end the saga, how it's like, man, we just don't know. And like you said, being a Santa ambassador, I'm like, man, this has been like my inspiration guy. What am I gonna do if he's not around no more?
We know that Bernard is back. I don't at least know if any of the other really principal characters are back. I'd love to see Judge Reinhold pop up for an episode.
Yeah, I know.
I'd love to see Lucy pop up for an episode. I'd love to see Charlie pop up for an episode. even if they don't play heavily into the series, I'd
Yeah.
love to see them pop up at least once. I mean, hell, if Judge Reinhold can go back to Beverly Hills Cop and resurrect that role alongside Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
why can't we get him in at least an episode of this, man?
Yes. I know they're bringing Elizabeth Mitchell back. Mrs.
That's
Claus.
why I didn't mention her.
Yeah, and I know they're continuing the story of, I forget what they're actually calling
Buddy.
the kid, but Buddy. But that was the name in the third. I know they give him a different actual like character, like proper name.
Probably
But
because
yeah.
they didn't want to confuse him with Buddy the Elf.
Which makes sense, especially being Santa Claus's kid. It's like, whoops. I'm more hopeful about this than I am about the end of Halloween.
That's saying something.
Like, I really am, because, no, again, this isn't because I work for the company, because I've loved these movies since they came out in '94. But I have a better optimistic view of the Santa Claus franchise, because they've always been good to us as fans. So we'll see. And then, like I said, with Santa Claus, the Santa Claus series premieres, so does the documentary that I haven't gone in depth about talking about it. Man, this has been in the can for a long time. And the company has just danced around trying to distribute it. It's like, dude, you have your own platform. You have a date that's on I believe it's a Friday. Fridays are good premiere days. It's about the guy that freaking launched your company. Just make it happen.
Right?
So they did it. And I'm again, there'll probably be a decent amount of company spin. Not going to try to front. But hopefully we will get a good, definitive, complete story of Mickey and his history on the 18th of November. Because
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to hearing your take on it.
I
know there will be a Jeff Meacham live stream about it to give his take. Special episode of Renegades Reviews. Jeff Meacham reviewing that.
Yeah, I think that I don't usually have content on a Friday will probably be it really depends where I am. Because if it drops on Friday the 18th, I'll probably be on my way to work by the time I'm able to actually get anything filmed.
That's fine.
So-
It doesn't have to be the day of.
No,
It
I
can be-
know. Well,
It can be the Monday, Tuesday after, whatever,
Yeah.
when you've got a chance to soak it in and watch it. But yeah, maybe we'll have to do that, since we'll be back to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, not counting the Santa Clauses.
right.
So maybe you'll have to have a Tuesday or Thursday live episode of Renegades Reviews starring Jeff Meacham giving his thoughts on that.
Well, there's also the fact that another former employee of the Mouse has a show on Tuesday on both our channel that I
Oh, we
produced
don't
on
count
your
that.
channel. So, you know. Oh,
We don't count that.
be nice to Jesus Christ, you're terrible. There's
He's
there
drinking
always
the Dolly
possible-
Kool-Aid right now.
Damn.
Or should I say the Dolly Nog? But I digress.
Ooh. So many bad jokes. Let's wrap this shit up before it gets worse. Okay. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Really appreciate, again, tuning in on this Monday. Again, if you're watching along with us, we appreciate the comments over here. If you're watching on demand later, be it tonight or later in the week, we appreciate the comments down here. Please tune in all week long for JJ's continuation of his horror franchise reviews. Again, great stuff coming this week, and then we end it on Halloween as it should, with Halloween Ends next Monday.
Like,
then right
like you said, I am neck deep in the Michael Myers franchise right now. If you missed it, H2O went up today, so that kind of shows you where I am right now. So tomorrow will actually be the Haddonfield Nightmare, the
Yes.
fan film from our friend, followed
Yes.
by Resurrection, the 2 Rob Zombie movies.
Yep.
And then we get to the 29th, Saturday, we'll start the 2018 franchise. Do that. Sunday is Kills, and then Monday is Ends.
And I know for a fact Braden's looking forward to your review, your actual review of Haddonfield Nightmare, and he was very appreciative of the fact that we gave that itty bitty little snippet that he released on the 19th when you were reviewing. I think it was Halloween 2 went up that day for you. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that calendar. It's so much shit going on right now on my
Right.
side of things. In any event, we appreciate you watching today. Go back and watch his review of H2O. Come back tomorrow for not only his review of the Haddonfield Nightmare, which we just discussed, but also his presentation of Stat Boy Sports Bar featuring Dory Lou and everything else in between. Whatever's going on my channel and the entire rest of the month on the Constantine Studios for the Renegade Non Wrestling This Week, JJ Williams. I am Jeff. Hell with it. Motherfucking Meacham. We are the Dads, and we will see you guys next time.